Can I welcome Paranjoy, whose book we are discussing? He's already on stage. And welcome to Mani Shankar ji, who's come all the way from Delhi. I think he's really taken an effort to get here. So we must give him a round of applause. And Govindraj has come from Parel. Most welcome to him also. And not to miss Kumar, he's there. He's warned us that he doesn't know too much about the subject, but we'll ask him questions nonetheless. So, move up, Paranjoy, you be in the center. So, what we'll do is we'll do this as a two-stage discussion, and it'll be first. Paranjoy is good to go. He's going to just tell us a little bit about the book, introduce the issues that he's raising. In his preface, he's outlined the questions he's actually raised throughout the book. So a lot of those questions have become relevant. There's been there's been good news and bad news on the gas front. A gas pipeline has burst today, and a GAIL pipeline in which 16 people have died. At the same time, there's been good news from whichever way you look at it, that gas prices have been stayed for the next 3 months, and the NDA government is mulling over it, whether they should actually go through with the same pricing which the Rangarajan Commission wanted to, or they're going to make changes in that. That's going to be up for debate for the next 3 months. So what better time than this to actually kick off that debate? So the panel discussion is going to come next, but let me start with Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, who's written this very interesting and controversial book, Gas Wars, Crony Capitalism and the Ambanis. It's been launched in Delhi. He's actually, in that sense, launching it first time in Mumbai. So many congratulations and round of applause. I think he's gone through a lot. Fighting to publish this book, both from a financial point of view as well as from the point of view of the kind of harassment he's faced, to actually see that it sees the light of day. So it's been a real honor from the point of view of the press club to welcome him here as a very brave and struggling journalist who's come out with this exposure he feels about the gas pricing and the Ambanis. So could I ask him to just introduce it in, say, 10-15 minutes, maybe do a few readings if he wants from it, and also maybe talk about the kind of pressures and problems he's faced to put it on the street and in the book stands. Welcome, Paranjoy, and if I can give you a mic amongst all these, I don't know which one is ours.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gurbir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly honored. I'm privileged. I'm grateful to the press club here at Mumbai for organizing this occasion. And all kinds of things happened. Maybe Gurbir can tell you more on another occasion. We were not sure whether this event would take place until it's happened. I'm particularly grateful to Mr. Mani Shankar Aiyar, to Govindraj, to Kumar ji in particular. It was Kumar Ketkar's idea that I call Mani Shankar Aiyar, and I'm truly grateful to him that he immediately said yes. Okay, just a few remarks. Maybe I'll just speak for about 10 minutes, a little bit about the book and then a little bit about what happened after the book was published. This book has been in the making for about 4.5 years. Me and my colleagues, we've been working on it because I thought I've been interested in the issue of natural resources, how natural resources are allocated, how they are priced, and I think it's an issue that concerns every single citizen of this country because the natural resources belong to the people of this country. And if the government or those who are supposed to represent the people don't act in a fair, balanced manner, then that leads to different forms of cronyism. So whether you look at land, whether it's water, whether it's iron ore, whether it's coal, whether it's telecommunication spectrum, we've had allegations all over about the way in which these resources have been misallocated or mispriced. This book runs into, the main book is about 400 pages. There are 400 pages of Okay. This book runs into this book is 600 pages long, but the main book is 400 pages, and there are 200 pages of annexures and appendices, including a lot of documents and reports which have been put out. The book began as really looking at the fight between the two Ambani brothers, because I believe that the main reason why Dhirubhai Ambani's empire got partitioned was because the brothers didn't agree with each other on the way in which natural gas from the Krishna Godavari basin would be allotted and priced. I mean, there could have been 1,001 reasons why the two brothers didn't get along with each other. It could be because Nita and Tina weren't the best of friends. But I said that there could be, despite all these reasons, it was really the two brothers broke the Dhirubhai Ambani's empire, business empire, on this issue. Because Anil Ambani believed that he could get gas at $2.34 per unit for 17 years, because NTPC, in an NTPC bid, RIL had said, Reliance Industries said it would get it. The gas would come more than 2,000 kilometers from the coast, southeastern coast of India and Andhra Pradesh, to a place called Dadri near Delhi. And there, Asia's biggest and India's biggest and one of the world's biggest gas-based power plants is supposed to come out. Now we know that didn't work out. The brothers fought, Bombay High Court ruled in favor of the younger brother, then it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the older brother. But what was very interesting, and this is something that a lot of us didn't realize, was what some of the things that the Supreme Court said when it ruled in favor of the older brother. And therefore, I'll just read out a very small bit about this. It says, a small portion of our population over the past 2 decades has been chanting incessantly for increased privatization of material resources of the community. Some of them even doubt whether the goals of equality and social justice are capable of being addressed directly. They argue that economic growth will eventually trickle down and lift everyone up. For those at the bottom of the economic and social pyramid, it appears that the nation has forsaken those goals as unattainable at best and unworthy at worst. The neoliberal agenda has increasingly eviscerated the state of stature and power, bringing vast benefits to the few, modest benefits for some, while leaving everybody else, the majority, behind. Then it goes on and talks about how historically across the globe, here you hear about free markets and freedom to market. And then he goes on to say that water, forests, minerals and oil, they are all being privatized and not being satisfied. The voices that speak for predatory capitalism seek more. Now, what truly amazed me, but that this was not me, or it was no left-wing radical, it was no communist ideologue who was saying this, but here was a judge of the Supreme Court saying this. So, to me, this aspect of the judgment, I think, was not as widely reported. Anyway, the brothers fell apart, and then we had the Controller and Auditor General's report, which said that, look, there was a lot that was wrong with the production sharing contract. And one of the big criticisms they had, they didn't use this phrase, but they're saying it's like gold plating. That means there was no incentive for Reliance Industries Limited to economize on capital expenditure. It's a bit like water. You're still supplying gas or water, but whether you have the water in a paper cup or a glass, or whether you have it in a gold-plated goblet. So there was no incentive to economize on capital expenditure, and there were a host of other reasons. You see, this is the second part of the book, which talks about the flaws in the contract that the government signed. And here the government is responsible. I mean, any privately owned corporate entity would like to maximize its profits, but if the government cannot protect the interests of the people, that's the problem. And this also includes the last interview that Subir gave me before he died of cancer. He was the former chairman or managing director of ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, and he talked about how records were missing. He couldn't find records. So there were a lot of things, and then the last part of it is also includes a speech which Mr. Mani Shankar Aiyar gave in a private gathering. And so that's the second part of the book. And the third part of the book is about the environmental disaster that could happen. I'm not saying it's happened or will happen, but what a lot of people don't know is that if there is land subsidence, in that area, in the Krishna Godavari basin, that happens to be India's most productive area where paddy is cultivated. So I've talked a little bit about that. And the last part of it is really talking about the nexus between business and politics, the circumstances that led to Mr. Aiyar being removed from his office, the circumstances that led to Mr. Murli Deora replacing him, and then how Mr. Murli Deora was moved and Mr. Jaipal Reddy was made the minister, and then he was removed, and then Virappa Moily became the petroleum minister. This book ends on the 24th of March, the day the Election Commission announced a stay on the increase of gas prices. A little bit of background. Me and another person known to me, we had originally signed up with Penguin. The person who was supposed to collaborate with me, he decided to part ways after a fair amount of the book had been done. So Penguin didn't want me to be the sole author, so that contract was terminated. I signed a fresh contract with HarperCollins, and this was in April 2012, and they wanted me to deliver the manuscript in April 2013. I delayed submitting the manuscript, and then I was pressurizing them after I'd submitted the manuscript to bring it out quickly. They said that they wanted the book to be cut down to half its size, which was not acceptable to me. They also said that if I did that, then they could bring out the book by May. To me, that was also not acceptable because I wanted the book out when the heat and dust of the elections were on. And thanks to my colleague who's here, Manish Purohit of Authors Upfront. Manish, please stand up. Manish runs an organization, he's the founder of an organization called Authors Upfront. And they help authors publish. So I was lucky to meet him, and thanks to him, this book came out very early. It came out in late March, and we had a function in the middle of April. And after that, to my surprise, and this was a real surprise, on the day the book was formally launched in Delhi, Gopal Gandhi, who was a former governor of West Bengal, he made a speech at a public meeting. It was held in Vigyan Bhavan, which is the Government of India's auditorium. And this was the occasion was the completion of the Golden Jubilee celebration of the CBI, the Central Bureau of Investigation. And on that occasion, everybody, including me, were completely taken aback when Mr. Gandhi, from a public forum, he made some amazing statements. He said, once upon a time you thought there was a parallel economy, now we have a parallel state. And then he named Reliance, and then he said that perhaps never before in the history of this part of the world has one single company exercised so much influence on resources, on the financial resources, the human resources, the natural resources. That was not me, but Mr. Gandhi. In fact, after that day, the next day, I got a legal notice from Khaitan and Company on behalf of Reliance Industries Limited and its chairman and managing director, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. And they said that I had criminally defamed them. So I said, where, how? And soon thereafter, another letter came from Mullah and Mullah from AG Anil Ambani Group. Then a third legal notice came because the first notice hadn't mentioned any date by which I should reply or any damages. So this time they said 10 days, 100 crores. And then after one replied to that legal notice, another legal notice came to me. A reply to the reply came saying no, that I had defamed Mr. Ambani. And some of the parts they were very upset with, and you can tell me, I'm reading it out, therefore I'm sort of risking a little bit here. So they were very upset with the way I sort of concluded the book, and the concluding chapter was, the concluding line, I beg your pardon, was something to the effect that, give me just a little bit of time. Yeah. I said, as we close this incomplete chronicle of how a single corporate conglomerate led by an oligarch fine-tuned the art of crony capitalism in collusion with particular politicians and pliant bureaucrats, it's important to emphasize that within the same government establishment there are functionaries who have refused to be intimidated and who have, against all odds, valiantly attempted to uphold the interests of not just the exchequer but the people of India. So they were upset that I described Mr. Ambani as an oligarch. So they said, this is defamatory. I said, please take me to court. I mean, what can I say? They said, at one point I said the two brothers, when they were fighting over Krishna Godavari gas, they were vengeful and greedy. They said this is defamatory. Then I said that, there was pressure to remove Mr. Mani Shankar Aiyar and kick upstairs Mr. Jaipal Reddy. So I said, if anybody should be defamed, it should be Dr. Manmohan Singh who should be feeling defamed, because I'm saying he's, after all, the Prime Minister. It's his prerogative to decide who is in his cabinet and council of ministers. So anyway, the story is as follows. They not only harassed me and intimidated me, there were others who felt intimidated. There's a legal word for it, SLAPP, Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation. So it's not only the authors, it was not only Flipkart and Amazon and the printers and the publishers against whom these legal notices were served. There were others, Sucheta Dalal's Money Life. She reviewed the book in her publication and website, and she also got a legal notice saying 100 crore rupees. What was amazing was there was this young woman. She's the events manager of an organization called the Foundation for Media Professionals. I used to be the president of that organization. She did me a personal favor by forwarding the electronic invite of the event on the 15th of April. She was served a legal notice. So I was truly amazed that the way they did. Now, much of the mainstream media did not have anything to write about the book. Outlook magazine did something, Mr. Prem Shankar Jha and Tehelka wrote about it. But much of the mainstream media, for them this book hadn't been published until this legal notice was served. And then everybody, all the newspapers, all the magazines, they started writing about it. And before I knew it, the sales of the book had gone up. So then in the fourth legal notice said, you have gained commercially. I said, yes, okay, I'm the publisher, I've also gained commercially. So this is where the position stands. There was a lot of people did feel intimidated, but the fact is this book is available online, it's available in bookstores, and that's really where it stands. You are aware that the government has decided to postpone the increase in the price of gas. That's not surprising because Mr. Yashwant Sinha had headed a committee of which Mr. Piyush Goyal also was a member, and in that committee they had made a very, very strong recommendation that gas prices should not be increased as per the recommendations of the Rangarajan formula. So there are cases pending in court as we talk about. On the day before the elections were announced, India's biggest public sector undertaking, ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, moved the Delhi High Court saying Reliance Industries has stolen 30,000 crores worth of gas from its wells. It's a petition in the court that has to be decided. I don't know when this government will come to a thing. So this is an ongoing story, but at the end of the day, you may say it's not important. Natural gas accounts for barely 10% of the total energy requirements of this country. And of that 10%, okay, ONGC produces maybe 60%, Reliance maybe produces 25%, and we are importing another 15%. So, but nevertheless, this has become a highly controversial and a highly politicized issue, and almost like a case study of the nexus between business and politics in this country. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Paranjoy. What we'll do is we won't take, I'm sure you have a lot of questions for him, but let the panel discussion stage get over, and then we can ask questions to any of them. So we'll